title, The World's Greatest Jazz Vocalist, Miss Billie Holiday.
Hey there, baby, make up your mind, 'cause I've been waiting such a long, long time. Now, baby, or never, I've been so sad and blue. Now, baby, or never, I've been so lonesome too. Now, baby, or never, if I mean anything to you. Now, baby, or never, 'cause I've wasted so much time. Now, baby, or never, and it ain't no fault of mine. It's gotta be yes or no. It's either you stay or go. You can't leave me on the shelf. You gotta commit yourself. It's either you will, baby, or won't fall in love with me.
An interview with Sylvia Sims, January 20th, 1973.
To the people in our industry, she was the great lady of all time. She was the queen bee.
I've been so sad and blue.
Without even trying, she was the most sensual of all of the lady singers.
I've been so lonesome too.
I saw the whole world in that face. All of the beauty and all of the misery. Billie Holiday sang only truth. She knew nothing else.
Now, baby, or never, I've been so sad and blue. Now, baby, or never.
Met her in Philadelphia once. It was a funny situation because I was very unknown. I was just a fan. And she just kind of lifted up her skirt and went right into a stocking and took out a bill and said, "Get me some gin, son."
I'm gonna call you once more on the telephone. I'll give you till 12 and I'll be gone.
In what way do you think of her as being innovative?
Well, the fact that she just told her own story, just by being herself.
Now, baby, or never.
Must be a pretty interesting story that you're writing. She's had a wild life.
You gotta commit yourself. It's either you will, baby, or won't fall in love with me.
I want to know why all girl singers crack up. They all crack up. When they hit the top, something tragic happens. I want to know what causes that.
Them that's got shall have, them that's not shall lose. So the Bible said, and it still is news. Mama may have, Papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own. That's got his own.
The things that I sing have to have something to do with me and my life and my friends' lives. They have a meaning.
Empty pockets don't ever make the grade. God bless the child. I wrote that for my mother. How it came about, I asked mother for some money, and she flatly refused me. So I said, that's all right. God bless the child, got his own. I walked out. And it started struck in my mind. I said, you know, that's a good title for a song. You've got lots of friends crowding round. All I had was my mom. I never had brothers or sisters. I did have a cousin.
We used to stay together as small kids.
How old were you?
8 or 9 years old. Her and her mother were very close. We were very close. The area she came up in as a kid, everybody knew each other, you know. It was just a nice community to live in, even though we were poor. It was a different type of poor, what they call today, you know. We made it and we were happy with what we had.
Crowding round no more. Rich relations dear.
In the bloom of her youth, she's pretty.
You can help yourself, but don't take
People played on her.
Did they play on her when she was a kid?
Of course.
Who?
The men folks.
Papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own. That's got.
You hung out with Billie?
That's right.
You called her Eleanor.
That's her name, Eleanor,
Yeah, right.
Eleanor Faden. That's the name that we knew her by.
You never knew the fathers.
No, I never knew her father, no.
Did she curse a lot when she was a kid?
Deb,
What'd she say? What were her favorite words?
motherfucker,
Every other word was motherfucker. What else?
cocksuckers. That was her word, motherfucker, cocksucker. She would say, you suck my ass, motherfucker. A lot of people didn't like you call them motherfuckers. They would beat you up. A lot of men.
Right there on the street.
Hey, yeah,
Think she liked it?
she must have liked it. But the fellas that liked it her, she didn't dig them.
Yeah.
Let me ask St. John.
Go ahead.
Did she turn tricked?
Sure, of course. During them times, you had to survive. And she had to survive.
Was she younger than most girls?
No, girls start young, some of them, you know. She wasn't like a slut. No. She just lived fast.
Saddest tale on land or sea was when my man walked out on me.
Why did she love the fast life?
And then she liked to be with the boys.
What were you doing then?
I was pimping.
Pimping.
Yeah.
Billy liked you cats, right?
Yeah. Well, we always had a lot of money.
How rough did you ever have to get with them? I mean, to keep them in line.
Knock them down and kick them in the ass.
Yeah? Oh, how'd they feel about that?
They loved it. Be so proud of a black eye. Look what my man done to me.
Why?
That's what they like, baby. You have
Why?
to treat them rough. That's the way they like it.
My man's gone, I feel forlorn. I've got those lost my man blues. He didn't treat me fair. It's more than I can bear.
Did you ever hear her sing?
Yeah.
When she was a kid?
Yeah. And she used to sing every night.
I've got those lost my man. Can't get him back again blues.
I always knew I could sing because I always did sing, but I never knew I could make any money out of it until I was working at a little joint called a hot shop.
Well, now, wait a minute. It's quite a jump from Baltimore to New York.
Well, it was a jump.
You were 15 years old then, weren't you?
No, I was 14.
I beg your pardon.
My first encounter with Billie Holiday was as a listener, not as a biographer or critic. Age 14, I happened to spot an album, The Essential Billie Holiday, and curiously listened to the voice. A strange voice that was more real and true than anything I'd ever heard before. It told of experiences so deeply felt, wailed huskily from some netherworld, that I had no choice. I had to listen to where that voice was coming from.
Linda was my big sister, and she was my protector, and she was my best friend. We grew up in the Bronx borough of New York. My father was a labor union organizer. Our family was Jewish, but not religious. Linda was a public high school teacher, but she had been doing interviews on women and women's rights as a journalist for Paris Review, for the New York Times Sunday magazine section. That's when she decided to start writing a biography on Billie Holiday. Even though they came from totally different backgrounds, I think she identified with Billie. I think she felt the pain of someone's struggles. She did not like seeing her as a victim, which I think is the way she had been portrayed.
I worked with Billie at the Hot Shot. It was just like a place you go in and have jam session. All the bands would come in. Everybody get up and do a number. That was during Prohibition in the early 30s. People was coming from all over the world to see Harlem, because Harlem was Harlem then. White people were coming up in parties, big limousines and things like that. That's where you got all your big money from. They'd go to the Cotton Club first, and then they wanted to see a little spice after dark. So they'd come to the after-hour places.
What were these people after?
They're after a good time, to hear some risque numbers and enjoy themselves, that's all.
How did you used to pick up tips? I mean, there's been a lot written.
Well, I used to pick them up between my legs.
She did it too?
Yeah, that's right.
Was she smoking pot?
At that particular time, and the only vice she had was smoking reefers. Nothing else stronger than that.
Why, hello, Mabel.
Good to see you.
Yeah, where in the world has you been?
Someone told me about this girl who could sing so beautifully. And I went down there to see her and hear her. And that's when I discovered her. A week or two after, she started coming to the Apollo Theater. And that's where she made her stage appearance, first time in her life.
Why do you think she was so nervous?
Well, she was stage frightened. Never been on a stage before. And a lot of people can sing in them little small places with 8 and 10, 15, 25 people. And then when you put them in front of a big audience, 1,000, 2,000 people, they just freeze up. Everybody knew she smoked reefer. In those days, reefers wasn't against the law. The Apollo was just a haze of smoke. And I'll never forget, when Billie came out to sing, they put a green spotlight on. She stood up on a green spot. And you could just see that smoke all over the house. Oh, if you didn't smoke, you got a contact high. And she stood in that green spot and she sang and sang and sang and sang. She was terrific.
Tell us something, Billie, about the background that brought about your interest in jazz.
Well, when I was a little girl, there was a lady on the corner that had a record machine. And I could hear Bessie Smith, and Louis Armstrong. I always wanted to sing like Louis Armstrong played. I always wanted to sing like an instrument.
That was it.
And John Hammond, you probably heard of him.
Oh, yes.
Used to come up to hear me in Harlem. And that's how I sort of got started.
Well, I was the first white guy who ever heard Billie, you know. I was the first one who introduced her around.
About the 8th stoop up here is where I first heard Billie Holiday. It says laundry there, see? And that's the place where Billie Holiday made her debut, as far as I know, in New York in about February of 1933.
What did you hear that said to you, I have to let the rest of the world know about this?
I heard a singer who was an improvising horn player.
Horn player?
Yeah, well, that's how she sounded. And
Any specific horn player?
Well, I think she liked Louis.
Louis Armstrong.
Louis
for those
Armstrong.
who
I'm
need
sorry.
to have that
excuse
last.
me.
That's quite all right.
And I knew, you know, that these two would make music together that was unprecedented in the world.
When the moon's kind of dreamy, starry-eyed and dreamy, and nights are luscious and long. If you're kind of lonely and all by your only, then nothing but the blues are brewing. The blues are brewing. When the wind through the willows.
I really didn't like girl singers very much, you know, because they were most of them very corny. Except for blues singers. Blues singers I loved.
If love goes a-thirsting till you feel like bursting, then nothing but the blues are brewing. The blues are brewing.
I persuaded the American record company that they should record the hits of the day without the wonderful girl singer and hit the jukebox trade. And since it cost so little, we would do these records, you see, for less than $300 a session.
Suppose you want somebody, but you ain't got nobody. You only got a gleam in your eye.
In '33, I got her into a studio with Benny Goodman. It was the first time that Benny had ever recorded with anybody other than white musicians, because he was afraid he'd lose all his jobs if he was known to record with black people.
Right. Could you tell me about that, how that came about?
You have to turn off the tape machine. He slept with Billy. You see, I was one of the people who didn't.
If you went to Harlem just for music and no sex, it was the strangest thing in the world. And I went just for music.
First time I met Billie was in a place behind the Apollo Theater, and she asked me to take her home because some of her friends that were there, she says, I don't want them to take me home. The apartment was in Harlem. That was considered a ghetto. When we got there, she asked me to stay with us. I ended up staying about 6 months. My mother used to tell me about her when she was a little girl. What would she tell you? That she was still in love with Billie's father. And a lot of times when she used to talk about it, she would cry.
Somebody told me that Billie used to go with girls. Now, is there any truth in that?
Oh, of course. Her nickname among the men, they called her Mr. Billie Holiday because she was seldom seen with fellas. And I will always believe that her mother was closer because she never wanted Billie to get close with any fellas. She would tell her they're no good. Now I heard this about him and I heard that about him. Her mother pushed that in her mind to be careful because they'll break your heart. Just like Billie's father.
What was Clarence like?
Oh, just a happy-go-lucky guy.
Yeah?
Yeah, full of fun.
What was his idea of fun?
Loved his booze. Clarence would drink anything you pour in a glass.
Is that so? Could he hold it?
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever see him drunk?
Quite often.
Would he change at all when he was drunk?
No, he would get more happy. He wasn't violent at all.
Did you ever see Billie with Clarence?
Come to think about it, no.
First time I ever saw her, of course Billie was young, you know. carefree, just like a big kid. Sonny White was playing piano. She was going with Sonny.
What was he like?
Sonny was a nice, quiet, very good musician.
They were engaged?
Yes. Our mother and I hoped that she would marry him. Well, Monroe broke that up. Jimmy Monroe.
Did Billy's mother ever say that he was him?
Yes. She hated Monroe. He had her smoking hot.
Opium run?
And then the next thing I heard, he had her using coke. Lady and Jimmy used to fight a lot, you know. But I didn't see too much of Lady after them with Flashy Monroe.
Whether the men who Billy went with treated her well or not, she always chose them for a reason. They played for her. They protected her. And in the man's world of the nightclub, they allowed her to do the one thing that mattered, which was to sing. Music didn't bring Billy to Harlem, but it was her voice that would allow her to escape.
That's it, everybody. Now here's the boogie woogie, solid beat. Come on, you dancers, on your feet. The winners get the prize, as you all know, and we pick them by the speed and the class they show. Let's go.
Billy, I'm just wondering if you might tell us how people began to call you Lady Day.
Well, now, that came about for Count Basie's band. Lester Young, he was a saxophone player. Lester named me Lady Day, and he named my mother the Duchess, and there was Count Basie, so we were the royal family. I returned the compliment and called him the president. And I had some swell cats on there with me.
Beautiful. She was a gorgeous woman.
Was she one of the boys?
She was like a man, only she was feminine. And when you travel along like that with a woman, she becomes just like another man.
Who did she used to sit with on the bus?
Her and Lester Young would sit together most of the time. We'd light up back in the bus. A lot of people thought her and Lester were lovers. He wasn't the type that she went for.
And what kind of places were you filming?
Oh, they were the worst. They were the lowest. We used to have conversations like, what are we doing down south? What are we trying to prove?
The management made Billy blacken her face?
Yeah, we did. We made her darken down because she was light.
How'd she take that?
Actually, she didn't dig it. When I came out on the stage and saw it, I laughed. It was funny to me. But then she turned around and called me a motherfucker. I don't even know what transpired for that to happen.
What would be a good question for you to ask me?
You.
About it.
She said that you used to alternate riff-raff drawings and then you'd play some big white hotel. You'd go from one extreme to the other. Is that true?
Well, I don't call no place a riffraff that pays me.
She said you weren't your own boss, that you had too many managers. It's true?
Oh, maybe. I've read that through John Hammond.
Was it true that she had to make her face darker? Because she was too light to say with a black band.
Maybe it happened. See, a lot of these things might have happened that I didn't think about, see?
I always wanted to straighten that out.
I don't know. How'd I know? Well, you interviewed me about my band at Billie Holiday.
Both? I can't write about Billie Holiday with your band if I'm not going to talk about your band.
Come on.
Am I? Can I?
My name is Jonathan David Samuel Jones, professional name Joe, J-O. And everybody professed to know her. They knew nothing about her. Only they knew what was in it for them.
What happened with her and Count Basie? I mean, why did that...
Count Basie?
Yeah.
Can't you leave Count Basie alone? That's no problem. That was no problem. That was no problem.
Why did she leave the band?
She didn't leave the band. She was fired.
Who fired her?
John Hammond.
John Hammond fired her? Why?
That's a big question. If you can answer that, they wouldn't have the UN.
About Basie, why did Billy leave the band?
Well, you see, here's the thing. There was a real problem with Billy and Basie. She wouldn't make enough money. Simple as that. And this is really one of the principal reasons why she left the band.
How much was she getting paid then?
I think 100 and a quarter a week, something like that, at the most.
She quit?
Oh, she.
John Hammond wanted to sing the blues. So, since she wouldn't sing the blues, he fired her.
How can I verify it?
His number is elevator 34173. Call him up, and I'll tell him, and I'll give him another heart attack. Call him.
I'm not gonna
Call him.
I'm not gonna call him now.
Call him.
Listen, I'm gonna call him. I'm gonna ask
No,
him.
call him.
You know I'm not gonna get through to him.
I guess you've heard by now that Joe Jones said that you fired her.
Oh, absolutely lie. Absolutely
Because
lie.
she wouldn't sing the blues.
How can Joe say a thing like that? Did you talk to Joe?
Yeah.
Joe said, oh, Joe's out of his mind.
He's a garbage man lie.
Why wouldn't
she fired him because he wanted to sing the blues. He wanted to be a colored mammy.
Didn't I tell you not to let me catch you at that piano again?
I'm sorry, ma'am. If I'd have heard you coming, I wouldn't have let you catch me. Or let me fix you a good hot tub. And it was
Now I'm telling you this in front. He wanted her to just be yassa boss, yassa boss. And everybody talking about he's the great white father. Don't give me that shit. But nobody got guts enough to tell the people that because they're afraid of him.
The problem with Joe is, that Joe is not always the most reliable. I just saw Joe last week. I have to ask her how he could possibly have given you such an impression that I fired her.
Do indeed.
It happened. That was a long time ago. How in the hell can I tell you what happened?
How can I prove?
You don't have to prove it. It happened.
I believe you.
No, it happened.
Okay. But when I put something in print...
I don't give a damn. Put it in print and quote me. It happened.
So why...
So don't you ask if you interviewing me, and when I tell you something, you print it. Are you interviewing me or I'm interviewing you? Yeah, were you 30 years ago?
I was in a crib.
Linda was very conscious of being a white writer and writing about Billy.
You don't know what we was going through.
What were you going through?
We was going through hell. Miss Billie Holiday didn't have the privilege of using a toilet at her filling station. The boys at least could go out in the woods. You don't know anything about it because you never had to subjugate yourself to it. Never.
Most neighborhoods where we were segregated by race, but we were very much aware of what was happening in the world racially. Violations of people's civil rights. The horrors of dogs attacking black people in the South. The African American struggle resonated with Linda. And it was always an outrage to Linda that people walked in the front door who were coming to see her. But Billie Holiday had to walk through the kitchen to perform.
This is no secret, of course, that wherever musicians gather and talk about singers, they generally elect you as their favorite. Now, who is your favorite?
Well, I like Billy Eckstine singing very much his sweet songs.
From night to night you'll find me
Joe Jones told me that Harmon fired Billie from the Basie band because she wouldn't sing the blues. Is that the truth?
That's probably sure.
Could be. She never told you.
No, she never told me, but I want to be known as a singer who can sing the ballads, who can sing up-tempo things. Don't take me because I'm a blues singer, that's all I can do is blues.
And that's what the
That's
pressure
what
on
they
Billie.
did.
Yeah. Did you two ever talk about this?
We would have had to.
See, now, you've got the misconception that black is the blues.
Sure.
It seems as if the people who were running the recordings were white. And I mean the powers, the agents. Let's say 7/8 of the musicians were black.
To see what people do to suppression, the frustration of it connected with black performers, the difference of being, quote, a black star in relationship to being a star. Billie Holiday, she's a black singer. Billie Eckstine, oh, you mean the black singer, and not Peggy Lee, she's a Slav singer. Or Barbara Streisand, she's a Jewish singer. Not that. You don't get that. Get a load of the critics, for God's sake. The people who judge our music as being good or bad. There isn't a black critic. There never was a black critic in swing music.
Why?
Why? Because of the power structure is such that he never got a chance. You had all white critics to decide whether or not you were good or bad.
It's a pleasure always to welcome Mr. Billie Eckstine. The black people get bugged. I think this is one of the most ironic things, that a man named Paul Whiteman was known as the king of jazz. Paul Whiteman was a white man, and jazz is supposed
Benny
to be...
Goodman was the king of swing.
She used to laugh at the fact that Benny Goodman was king of swing. Paul Whiteman, king of jazz. You know, these things, they're absolutely comedic. Look at Tom Jones. Tom Jones openly declares that he got his style from Otis Redding, Jackie Wilson, from Chuck Berry, and he started learning how to sing ballads by listening to my records. Now, all four of us that they named, where's ours? Where's our compensation? Where's your payday?
The most remarkable things about jazz performers, you're way ahead of so many of the rest of us when it comes to desegregation. Why is it that the color thing has not ever really been that important with musicians?
Well, I guess we have more nerve than other people, and we get a chance to meet bigger people.
Who was it that brought about the job you did with Artie Shaw in the old days, remember?
Well, Artie Shaw. He asked me if I want a job. So I says, yeah, I want a job.
There was still a policy of no colored singers being with a white organization. Would you tell that story to us now?
Well, I'd rather not.
I first met Billie back in around 1930. Billie was just a young kid then, and I was almost as hungry in those days as she was. I remember saying to her one day, Billie, if I ever make the grade and get a band of my own, you're going to sing with it. And sure enough, that's what happened.
Do you remember when Billie first came to sing?
To the best of my knowledge, it would have had to have been in either 36 or 37. We were a traveling group of minstrels. You'd get on a bus and travel 300 miles. And the way we carried out was part of the life.
Did Billie have any trouble as a black singer with a white band?
Yes, the normal kind of problems that would exist with any black person in those days.
She was remarkable in that she was a trailblazer without really, you know, making her. She wasn't making her thing or anything. Today it's hard to even describe the climate, you know, like waitresses refusing to serve her. After we would eat, she always ordered an extra hamburger, and she put that in her purse because she never knew when she would not be able to be served.
The incidents concerning Billy were mostly concerning finding a place to stay wherever we went. The usual racial problem.
Especially if you're a black woman traveling with a white band.
We'd get in the early morning hours, you see, and many times she either slept in the car or the bus or wherever.
And where would you go?
To a hotel.
How did you take it?
Billy was kind of sensitive. Not kind of, she was period sensitive.
Do you remember an incident by any chance when you first hit Kentucky and the sheriff, he came up to the bandstand and said, "What's that black bitch going to sing?" And there was a brawl or something?
Oh, there was a hell of a fight, I remember. I think somebody was calling her nigger or something, I don't know whether Artie hit somebody over the head with his clarinet. When we got to the Lincoln Hotel in New York, it was the band's so-called big break. Wouldn't allow a colored black girl to sing. But it was just one of those things where, I mean, the sacrifice there, it had to be Billy. He just kind of left, he just split.
Did anybody blame Artie Shaw for staying when Billy really couldn't stay there?
Well, he didn't fire her. She left on her own. She had a lot of pride.
How did you take it?
Philosophically, I guess, in her vulgar language method. If she had other words at her disposal, she would have used them. The only words she could speak were those in the song. This beautiful soul she had that she could only do by expressing herself singing.
And now a little tune written especially for me, Strange Fruit.
In 39, she actually was a Columbia artist. They gave me permission to record Strange Fruit, which they didn't want to record.
Why not?
Because of the social content of it, I guess. And you know how unusual it was to do a protest song. That was the thing that made all the publicity and noise.
Pastoral scene of the gallant South, the bulging eyes and the twisted mouth.
Well, it was actually a shocking piece of material. She would come close to breaking up when she was singing Strange Fruit.
You hear the crack of the voice and...
Yeah, also in the eyes, and almost a reflection of what she had to do in her lifetime in order to make it. The fact that Negroes did not have equal chances, this was something that she felt very deeply, and about the only way she could really crusade or bring these thoughts together would be to sing songs like that.
Scent of magnolia, sweet and fresh. Then the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is a fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rock, for the tree to drop. Here is a strange and bitter cry.
Do you remember the first time she sang that song at Cafe Society?
Sure. It's unforgettable. Every time she sang it was unforgettable. Soon after, the Time magazine appeared, and the caption read, "Most unusual song ever to be heard in a nightclub." When she sang Strange Fruit, she never moved. Billie stood there. All service stopped at the bar, everywhere.
Can you remember any time when anybody might have caused any commotion?
Oh, yes. Right, people walk out.
These are white people.
White people. One party after another. We come to your nightclub to be entertained, and we don't call this entertainment.
Strange Fruit. So what is that, man? And she was fighting equality before Martin Luther King.
Oh.
What are the songs she chose to sing? Exposing discrimination. Putting it on stage. They used to have riots when she sang that in New York. And that might be why the cops were against her too. Not just jump.
The Treasury Department intends to pursue a relentless warfare against the despicable dope-peddling vulture and public enemies. And we hope to place the drug addicts arrested under institutional care.
It was Billie's interpretation of Strange Fruit, not the song itself, that changed the direction of American music. But not everyone stood to applaud her primal howl against the bloody history of white America. And her refusal to stop singing it would give vindication to those powerful men already circling the decadent world of jazz in search of a high-profile target to burnish their reputations. And now that Billie's star shone so brightly, she could not easily retreat back into the night.
I had to get myself ready for this. You know, I have a couple of things, because if I want to talk about her, I won't feel good. Because she's something else. She was really something.
When did you first meet her?
I met her in 1942. I was just a kid. I was only like 20 years old. She used to call me in there, and we ran out the chords to this tune.
Where was this, in the dressing room?
Yeah. And she'd be standing there with nothing but a pair of shoes on. That was it. No clothes.
My man don't love me. He treats me oh so mean. My man, he don't love me. He treats me awful mean. He's the lowest man that I've ever seen.
Her boy was less young, but she was always happy when she knew Krez was playing for her. The way he played behind her, she was just like she was in her mother's arms.
I like Lester feeling, you know. When he first started, everyone thought his tone is too thin. And I told him it doesn't matter because you watch it. After a while, everybody's going to be copying you.
He wears high draped pants, stripes are really yellow.
They had the funniest way of loving each other. It was brother and sister, but it was another thing. Anybody that ever knew him will tell you he's one of the strangest people on earth. He was like a visitor. Really. And she was too, so you figure the two of them on together is pretty wild. That was the way it was all the time. But everybody loves a wild woman.
But you're so mean to me, baby. I know you're gonna drive me away.
Sang from her crotch. You bet she had the greatest crotch in life. Now that I look back, I'm sorry I missed it.
How do you envision this?
It had an awful lot to do with the way she was with everything she did. So you look at Lady Day, you gotta include her sex life or you don't look at her.
Sometimes when you think it's on, baby, it has turned off and gone.
Even from the beginning, she chose me because I had admired her so long. She came down one night between shows and she said, "Pick me up tonight." And as I was walking in the door, she was walking out the door with a chick. So the next night, she collected me. She would go off with a chick or something like that. She would probably make them perform like a three-ring circus. After that, she'd probably go off and get a prostitute. She was a sex machine.
I know a couple of good friends of yours who are not musicians. Orson Welles, Tallulah Bankhead.
And Miss Bankhead, I love her.
She had a lot of affairs with girls at that time.
Tallulah was, yeah. And everybody was talking about it.
That I was like the relief drummer on 52nd Street. She said, "I'm only gonna do 4 tunes tonight. Start your heart." She excited me with just 3 notes.
The bar used to be packed with hero worshippers. She looked like a panther. It's the only way I can describe her, with the most unbelievable face in the world. She really dug being high. That's the one thing I've got to say. But I never knew anyone with such a capacity.
All the doormen along 52nd Street had what they needed.
Like what?
Like pot.
When we first started going together, there was nothing but weed involved. And all of a sudden, when she started fixing whiskey, it didn't make her high enough. She was using heroin and cocaine at the same time. And she had a 10-pound candy box of assorted pills. She'd grab a fistful of them. Then she'd proceed to drink scotch behind that. And she could consume more stimulants than any 10 men and still perform. She was an extremist.
Why? Why all those extremes? Why?
She just wanted to get high. That's as simple as that.
And why shouldn't she?
I'm Jimmy Fletcher, one of the top narcotic agents in the country. Billie Holiday. She was kept under observation for years. She had been raided by police dozens of times and they never found anything. One day, I was called in the office, a confidential conversation with the supervisor, and he said, "I just got a call from Anslinger." He said that Billie Holiday's agent, Joe Glazer, wants a colored agent to work with him on getting a case on Billie Holiday.
But you mean Joe Glazer wanted Billy busted?
Yes, for her own good. And he confided in me like to save her. The only way to save her is to have her knocked out by the government.
Why couldn't you bust Billy then, when Glazer wanted her busted?
Well, because she
Never sold anything, never handled it.
So what happened? You were like following her movement?
That's right. Keeping on the observation night and day.
And would you say Billie was extremely smart in protecting herself?
Well, she was. The information came that Joe Guy, during that period he was going with him, he bought an ounce every day.
Wasn't Joe Guy a musician?
Oh, yes. He played the trumpet. Every day, Joe Guy walked up 8th Avenue, picked up an ounce, put it on the collar of Billie Holiday's boxer dog. He'd walk with the dog from way down on Morningside Drive up to Braddock Hotel. He lets that dog go. And the dog goes on around to the elevator operator, and he would carry the dog to the top floor. The elevator operator was in collusion, $2. He always got for looking out for her. She had sailed along without being caught until that shootout in Trillium.
Until that shootout in Philly in 47, you mean?
Yes.
What happened?
In Philadelphia, they found 2 ounces of heroin in a car, but they couldn't get any warrants to make a clean-cut arrest before Billie got in the car. The chauffeur got a tip-off, he got away, and Billie Holiday's Cadillac was shot up by police. With a lot of bullet holes in it. She got away and was heading for the Grampian Hotel. Washington had wired the New York office and told them to put somebody on Billie Holiday's tail. And I'm not supposed to make any attempt at arresting Billie. I'm supposed to tail her.
And she was in the hotel?
And when I arrived, the only way I knew it was the Cadillac was when I went around and found that there were bullet holes. And then the next day, the arrests were made.
Well, let me ask you this. Given the fact that she was so famous, would she have been a target because it would have been a lot of publicity for an agent?
Well, not for an agent, for the Bureau of Narcotics.
So then, in that sense, somebody can make a reputation.
That's right.
Here at Alderson, the system was that when a person came in who was on drugs at the time, that they were sent to the hospital and remained there until they were drug-free. This prison was segregated as to race. She really went into the woodwork here. She had made up her mind that she was just going to do her time and get out as fast as she could.
This was the room she occupied. She certainly was no trouble ever. She was a generous person, I'd say, in thought anyway. She never bothered anybody.
It's almost impossible to say how quiet she was. To my knowledge, she never sang a note.
It took Linda a long time to work on the book. The 8 years of her life. She had some bad times. And, we would get calls in the middle of the night.
I just don't feel like doing it. All this should have been done about this woman before she died, not after she's dead and everybody is going through all kinds of shit about it now. Because I've had it up to here, that shit.
As the time went on, she kept pushing her own set deadline further and further. At One point, I remember we had a discussion, and I said, you know, maybe it's just time to finish it and to leave it imperfect. But she couldn't. It was so much part of her. The reason that Linda struggled so much was that inside her own head, she heard the voice that she wanted Billie to have, but she couldn't get that correct voice on paper.
Just one more chance. I've learned the meaning.
Haven't you got a fine piano man of your own that you bring in there?
Yes, he goes everywhere with me. His name is Bobby Tucker. Bobby's been with me 4 years. I think he's a very great musician.
After she came out of jail, she was so glad to get back, and she was so amazed that people hadn't forgotten her.
Still I'm hoping.
We did Carnegie's Concert Hall. I remember opening night, there was a line around the block, and the people were standing out there in the rain waiting to see what a woman prisoner looked like.
What happened in Carnegie Hall? Were you frightened?
Oh, I was scared to death. I waited until the last minute, and I said I wasn't going to go on. There's too many people. And I couldn't control my knees. Well, you could see my knees just going, and people didn't know whether I was going to dance or sing.
Still I'm hoping.
She would walk out, and before she opens her mouth, she had everybody in the place.
I said that
She didn't really think that she was a good singer. She could tell a story.
She had no confidence in her voice?
No.
None at all?
Actresses, artists, I look at them like, ooh.
And you don't consider yourself in the same league?
No, my God, no.
Why not? You've thought as much about it. You have developed a style, a technique just as much as they have done. You please just as many people, so why are you not just as much an artiste as any one of them?
Well, maybe I am in my little way, but my Lord, they make me cry. They make me happy. I don't know if I've ever done that to people, not really.
Oh, I think you do. I think you do know that.
What was the difference between what Ella did and Billie?
Ella says, my man's gone. You think the guy went down the street for a loaf of bread. But when Lady says, my man's gone, man, you can see that cat going down the street. He's got his bags packed, and he ain't never coming back.
She taught me that if you almost laugh out loud, but never quite make it, the audience will laugh. If you almost cry, but never quite make it, the audience will cry.
What would she cry?
She'd cry about a lot of things, but never when she thought anybody was watching her.
Nobody can sing like Lady. Not ever. We worked the Club Ebony together. That's when John Levy came into the spotlight.
John became manager, sometimes called husband's manager, though he never married her because he was already married and had a son. But Billie did not care about such legal considerations anyway. She did not relate to legal codes. She did what she wanted to do, with a vengeance.
It costs me a lot, but there's one thing that I've got. It's my man.
John Levy. Right. The bastard. The dirty, rotten, stinking bastard.
There is nothing good you could say about that.
Not one thing, sweetheart. And I try to say something good about,
There's no reason to say anything
anybody.
good
There
about
is
him.
no reason to say anything good about him.
All of this I'll soon forget with my man.
John Levy is a pimp, parasite. I wouldn't want to brush over him if I had overalls on.
He's no hero.
See, these kind of guys with the Cadillac or whatever, they represented something to Lady.
They represented where she came up.
Yeah.
Yes, I love him. 2 or 3 girls has he that he likes as well as me, but I love him.
I usually spit after John Levy.
I don't know.
If she asked him for $50, he'd knock her down.
How would he knock her down?
With his fist.
With his fist in her face?
You darn right. In the stomach. Anywhere.
He beats me too. What can I do?
If she was hooked, she was hooked. And I mean on man, chick, dope, whatever it was. She was hooked.
But I don't care when he takes me in his arms. The world is bright, all right.
She's up there singing My Man. She's a masochist, is what she was.
Yes.
All she wanted is a guy to tell her he loved her, you know, but not all the time because she digs punishment. So when he does say it, it's gotta mean something real wild, like in the middle of something crazy.
I'm his forever.
Probably late 49. I was playing trombone. It was like my first time on the road.
Were you the only 2 women on the tour?
Yes. She was with John Levy, that John. They didn't get along too well.
They had fights, you mean?
They had a couple of good ones, yeah. One started on the bus, and like I said, I climbed up, tried to get under a seat. The other one was in the hotel. She hit him over the head with a Coke bottle or something and kind of laid his head open. And they both went to the hospital.
Billie Holiday's man at that time. Johnny Levy had been an informant since 1934. He wanted to get rid of Billie Holiday.
Why did he want to get rid of her?
He said, damn it, I sometimes feel like killing her.
He couldn't control her.
He couldn't control her. So he had this fellow to call me, tell Agent Fletcher that Johnny Levy and Billie Holiday are smoking out in the hotel.
Was this before they were arrested in San Francisco?
Yes.
Much before?
I'd say 2 weeks before she went out there.
Ordinarily, I wouldn't have bothered about Billie Holiday.
Why not?
She was not a trafficker. She was an addict. I knew that she'd been arrested before. Every time she'd been arrested, she generally was arrested. And Billie flaunted her way of living with her fancy coats and fancy automobiles and the jewelry and the diamonds, and she was the big lady. One Saturday morning, I found out that she was living in the hotel, and that's why I'd taken a couple of policemen with me. I'd kick in the door, and we both reached the bathroom at about the same time. She more or less got a further stuff into the open toilet. We arrested them both. We charged them for possession of opium.
Do you think Billie was a victim of the federal agents?
You victimize yourself by becoming a junkie.
Or was she a victim?
She was victimized by Johnny Levy. Later on, she had sense enough to leave him.
Billie was indicted. As soon as she was arrested, I immediately put her in Twin Pines, kept her under full psychiatric controls for 5 days, and proved that she was not addicted to an opiate. Now,
You made observations. You have to, especially if you're psychiatrist. What's made her the way she is? What drove her to a series of John Levy's to heroin?
I don't like to use this word, and it's not a good word, but she's really a psychopath.
A psychopath.
An impulse-driven, strong, talented, but not dependable individual who does this because this is what she has the impulse to do right now, and she gets into all sorts of trouble.
A psychopath.
The key to this thing is the impulse.
Was there any perversity in this? When I said perversity, I meant a demon. You know, there's a demon sometimes eating away that kind of forces you to do something that's going to elicit some kind of shock. And this is something I can identify with. As Linda went on, the identification became much more intense. Like Billie, she was attracted to men who were not bringing out necessarily the best in her. She was married twice and she was divorced twice. While she was writing the book, Linda became close with some of the people she interviewed. One time we were in our apartment, the phone rang, and a man's voice said, "Can I speak to Linda?" Of course, I asked, well, who's calling? And he said, well, it's Bill. Linda says, you know who Bill is? I said, no. And she says, well, you do. It's Count Basie.
Ask me a question about that.
Me ask you a question about it?
Yes.
Why don't you call me William?
Because you asked me to call you Bill.
I didn't ask you. I mean,
You commanded me.
Well, let's say it. Now, I mean, my close friends call me Bill. And you want to work with me and write my book?
Bill, if I worked with you to write your book, we'd have such terrible fights.
That's right. Well, I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know, because, you know,
I'm not really actually hard to get along with.
I don't really feel you are. I wouldn't be doing
No,
this.
but then you're a pretty smart cookie.
I'm not sure what Linda's relationship with Basie actually was. It's an impression that there was a closeness based on what she had said to me.
I understand that one of the reasons for your present happiness is your husband, Louis. How does he react to some of your more suggestions?
Oh, no, he tells me how to sing and what to sing, and oh, it's just getting terrible.
Well, your husband's right here in the dressing room with us, Mr. Louis McKay.
Mr. McKay, tell us something about how you two work together.
Well, we have something like a private agreement. I handle all the business. She handles all the music. Of course, she tells me sometimes, you stay out of my music.
And does she stay out of the business?
Yes, she does.
Then you get along fine.
What else are you doing besides the records and touring around the spots?
Well, 12th of October, my dream is supposed to come true. I'm going to Europe.
Oh, you've never been there?
No.
Oh,
I've
well.
always wanted to go.
Was this a vacation trip to Europe, or?
No, honey, no vacations. All work. Ah, the stars out tonight. I don't know if it's cloudy or bright. For I only have eyes for you, dear.
Millions of people go by, but I only have eyes for you. I don't know if we're in a garden or on a crowded avenue. You are here, so am I. Millions of people go by, but they all disappear from you. And I only have eyes for you.
What is it that you're after out of life yourself, Billy, now?
Right now?
Yeah.
I want a beautiful home. I want kids. That's what I want.
He'd always wanted children. Never able to have any. I just had 2 girls there. She used to love to paint their fingernails, and she would sing to them, and she would take them shopping.
You are here, so am I. Millions of people go by, but they all disappear from you.
It was her dream to retire someday with enough money to buy a big spread and have a home for children who had no mother and father.
And I only have eyes, big bulging eyes, great big eyes for you.
But he was just using her to get control of her money.
I was with her during the return to New York. This was a tremendously big concert. I'm sure you've been told all the people that were on it. Duke Ellington's orchestra, Sarah Vaughan, Bird, Prez, Count Basie. But it seems like everybody there had come to see one person.
And now I'd like you to know America's #1 song stylist, Miss Billie Holiday.
She closed the show. And she sang encore after encore after encore. If we stayed on that stage an hour, we stayed on there an hour and 30 minutes. Well, after the concert was the fight. Louis began to loudmouth, and that started a big rumble, which then we all ended up out in the street, and he literally knocked her across the street. But she loved that punishment. This is the nature of a masochist. After he had just beaten her severely and kicked her, is that after they have gotten the punishment, then they have been so completely gratified, then they can just enter into a sexual trice. But Louis had a technique going of trying to control her mind. It was like hypnotism. You can't depend on anyone but me. You have no friends but me. You must stay in here and keep yourself away from everyone but me. There were days when he just kept her under lock and key.
He'd boss her around and tell her she couldn't do this, she couldn't do that. And she wanted something to eat, and he said, go on to bed. You don't need anything to eat. And she lost so much weight, she looked like a skeleton.
If you were to talk to Louis, he would probably tell you an entirely different story. He's a pathological liar. And he would probably ask for money. There was a time he came up to the apartment after he hit her on the head.
He said he'd hit her on the head with a telephone?
Yeah, and I locked her in my bathroom. And he came and he said, I got a gun here. I don't want to put this on tape.
See, I can't write about whether you tell me something about Louis or not. I can't say it, write it, because I'm liable, and he's alive, and he's tough. I'm in trouble, not you.
In the process of interviewing for the book, Linda had been threatened by people within the world that she was traveling. I don't know why she was threatened. She was a journalist, she was interviewing, but I think the threat was personally motivated. At times she said there was discomfort with how she was spoken to in terms of having a relationship with Basie. I don't know whether it was because of the age, and I just know that she had been threatened. Not by Basie, but by some of the people surrounding him.
Okay, I guess we're going to end, Bill. Did you know something? This is the end of our interview.
I'll never smile again until I smile at you. I'll never laugh again. What good would it
And I got a call from the producer and asked me if I could go down with Billie Holiday. Of course, I was fantastically elated. I was in love with Billie. Not necessarily Billie, but somebody. That voice, it turned me on. But when I met her, she was a repulsive one. She looked a little scaly, a little dirty.
Well, Billie, her heart was just broken. She was laid, and then she had a stool, and she had the vodka. Her legs were swollen, right down to her ankles. She was in pretty bad shape. Everybody in the band wanted to cry. We knew this couldn't go on much too long. Not because she was old, but because she had dissipated. Photography being my hobby, I had a camera strung on my shoulders. I've got one picture that's just sitting there with that glass of vodka. It's the shadow of death.
Shadow of death.
Shadow of death.
Of all the songs you've written, Billie Holiday, which one most clearly tells your story?
Oh, I think Don't Explain.
Did you write the words and the music?
Yes.
Both of them?
I had to help with it.
Close your eyes and speak the words like a poet.
Hush now, don't explain. I know you raised Cain. I'm glad you're back. Don't explain. Quiet, don't explain. You mix with some dame. Skip that lipstick. Don't explain. You know that I love you, and what love endures. All my thoughts of you, for I'm so completely yours.
She would call me up maybe 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. It seemed like she was almost hallucinating, and she would say, "Oh, I'm so scared. I'm here all by myself." Like, she would talk to me for hours and tell me about how she got started in prostitution. She was 13 years old. Said that at that time that she had her own girls on the street. She was terribly worried about whether or not God would forgive her.
Yours, love. Don't explain.
Everybody wanted something out of her. But then again, this was a woman who's only happy when she was unhappy. Does that sound strange?
She lived in constant fear that she would be set up.
How much of it was paranoia?
There's a great deal of paranoia, but you can understand why. The time she got arrested, it made headlines.
As far as I'm concerned, her use of narcotics was just another way of self-punishment.
She told me that when she was a little girl down in her hometown, she was raped. Who raped her? And she didn't tell me. There were tears in her eyes.
She was always a vulnerable child to me. I don't think she was ever really in love in her life. Or ever knew what it was. She just suffered.
She said, everything you told me has come true. He has just robbed me of every dime. I have no money. I don't have any help. And she says, now he has a white girl that he's going with. But you know, I have finally done it. I have filed for divorce, and at last, I have put him down. The irony of the situation was, is before she could sign those papers in the hospital, she died. And then that left all of her estate to go through.
She went to the hospital on a Sunday. She knew she was dying. That damn hospital. They had her on an arrest. This woman laying in bed.
But she did tell me one time that if they ever arrested her again, that she couldn't go through that experience and she'd rather be dead.
Heaven help the United States of America. No innovator was like her, nobody. All she wanted to do was sing. She ain't bothering nobody. Billie had a Cadillac in the mix, so what? What's wrong with that? Wasn't she entitled to have a Cadillac? Wasn't she entitled to have a mink? Wasn't she entitled to have diamonds? Oh, you ain't supposed to have that. You're a Negro. Stay in your place, you know. All y'all need to do is get some black-eyed peas and rice, and that's all y'all need. I'm talking about what we went through. No vocalist that ever went through what she went through. Greatest country in the world. The most stupid, most prejudiced race of people, even as of today. I'm leaving. Quick as I can. God will not be a part of this farce. July the 17th. That's when she died. I closed up Miss Billie Holiday's casket and put 2 flowers on it.
The question, Billy, that I was going to ask was that why so many jazz greats seem to die so early.
The only way I can answer that question is we try to live 100 days in one day.
like myself, try to please so many people. I guess we all suffer.
It was in the middle of the blizzard of 1978. Linda was going to Washington, D.C. for a Basie concert. And we received a phone call from my mother. And she said, "You have to come home. Linda just died." The police told my parents that she had committed suicide and jumped out of the window, and we were just devastated. And also, you know, unsure that that was how she died. To our knowledge, there was no note. She was a writer, and there never was a letter. At the time, the Washington, D.C. police did not have a great reputation for integrity, and we really questioned how much they had actually investigated Linda's death. My thought is that somebody had pushed her. I have absolutely no evidence of it. Only what I know of Linda and the surrounding situations. When Linda died, it appeared that she had been getting ready to go to sleep because one of her rituals was to put on a face mask. When she was found, she had the face mask on.
I love you, Poggy. Take me. Don't let him handle me and drive me mad. If you can keep me, I wanna stay here with you forever. I've got my man.
I just thank the Lord that I did know this girl when things were different.
I know he's coming.
And I would pray that she'd come back.
He's going to handle me and
Wouldn't that be nice? Just one day.
me so.
But you had to get a good ticket to get there.
It's going to be like dying.
I can't cry about Billie now. I don't even cry about her when I listen to
When
her.
he calls me.
She makes me smile, even sadly.
But when he comes,
And it's just too bad that it took all this time for all of this shit to come up.
I'll have to go. I love you, Poggy.